but of course they have a specialist representation. And if we want to solve a problem, for example, we have a server which is posing a problem that the distribution, people are complaining about not being able to access particular programs. And the distribution had been made on the server, but it's just not going through. We try to get the specialist in information systems. We try to get the specialist in communication. We try to get the specialist in web design, possibly to come and try to find out whether or not they can identify the problem. Once the problem is resolved, then of course the task force job has been done and therefore has been disbanded. Therefore we wouldn't be thinking of trying to get from every group represented in the organization, because it's not going to help resolve the problem, because this has a specialist read it. And so the boards, you're a member of the board, and so, which therefore represents the highest country of the organization, and then both in the business and non-business sense. So we're looking at strategic issues and organization mission and strategy. And first, we're looking at the formation now of the teams or groups. And the reason that I've got groups/teams is to facilitate some people who can only think of teams, because teams seem to be a buzzword. But when I look at some text, and in their revision, all they have done is to use the spell checker, find and replace, and they have literally gone through and done a complete replacement of groups to teams. For me, we still have a tacit difference.
Okay.
Now, it's the formation of the group, and therefore is an important aspect of group dynamics, because the stage of development of the group will depend on where it is in its formation stage. Whether or not you can leave those groups to function on their own will also depend on where they are in the formation stage. Also, some groups, similar to people's development, child development. So we know some international figures, some international stars whom I don't want to name now. They behave like children, very much like children. And the reason for them doing this is that in their development, because they have been stars, they did not get to do the things that children should do.
I know.
And therefore they skip this stage. Okay. And so they're going back to their childhood, and so they want children in their beds, because they have to be seen as a child and get the feeling of being okay if they are with children. So that's the point I was making about the bypass.
So does that mean that it's not good for you to have youngsters?
It is bad for them. Children stars always fare badly in the end. And we have seen there are so many. I think if you remember different strokes for different folks, even if you remember the British one, the British versions, and I can't remember exactly what they are now, but they all had a very, very terrible end. And one of the problems, again, as I said, is that development had not taken place. So some resort to drug addiction, and some become very delinquent as far as society is concerned after that.
Yeah.
And so it is more or less exploitation rather than anything.
Okay.
So, if managers are aware of the stage of development of teams, then they will better understand why they behave the way they do. So you can say some teams, some individuals and some teams would behave and like, for example, adults. Some behave like parents. Some behave as you said earlier, children. And there's another element of group behavior which we call transactional analysis. And so transactional analysis plays into this, in which case we're analyzing the interaction between the people. Yeah. And so people say, you know, pat you on the shoulder and say, hey old boy, how are you doing? And they're trying to play the parent. And say, hi, how are you? And the way they